Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Peter Racy here, Foundation Expo 88, and I'm here this afternoon with Bob Minnikin, former General Manager of Expo 88, and Steve Minnikin. And Steve Minnikin is newly elected member for Chatsworth and newly minted, I think would be a good word, Assistant Minister for Transport. And Steve is going to read an introduction, or a special message actually from Ric Birch, but Steve's also going to outline the personal relationship between the two and also a little bit of history as to how your connections during and after Expo have flowed.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks. Just the email that was received from Ric Birch, and it says, "Steve, congratulations on your ministerial appointment. It's great to know that the Minnikin family are continuing their involvement with public service. I actually have a connection with your family that goes back over 30 years through your father's cousin, Bob Minnikin, when we met for the 1982 Brisbane Commonwealth Games. At that time, Bob was Deputy General Manager for the Games and was my point of contact for the opening and closing ceremonies. Months before the Games, Bob was the only member of the organising committee who had thought past the opening day because he told me to be prepared to produce something for closing, but warned me there was no budget. After the opening ceremony, the organisers were very happy, and Bob called to say he hoped I had something special for the closing ceremony, because now I'd raised everyone's expectations. But he said there's still no budget. In fact, I'd lined up a hot air balloonist who was to perform a stunt at the closing, but he disappeared into a clear blue sky over the stadium at a rehearsal, so I had to rethink my options. In the end, we brought back Matilda, who winked her way round the track like someone with an eye infection. Our 9 skydivers finally made it into the stadium after being cancelled by high winds at the opening. And we featured all the Warana Festival floats in a parade that trailed Matilda around the track, to the mystification of most TV announcers. But still, it was a closing ceremony and good enough for me to be offered a job later on the Los Angeles Olympics. I also met up with Bob again in Los Angeles when he asked if I'd be interested in planning the entertainment program for Expo 88. Because I'd really enjoyed working with Bob at the Commonwealth Games, I thought it sounded like a great idea, especially when he suggested we should include an aquacade like one he'd just seen in New Orleans. It was a continuation of a wonderful friendship. Bob Minnikin was an outstanding General Manager for the Brisbane 88 World Expo, and to this day, I think he's one of the very best senior executives that I've worked with anywhere in the world. I hope he's around to assist the planning for the 2018 Commonwealth Games, because it will make your job much easier. He's an unsung hero, so it's time for you all to raise your hats, voices and glasses for a chorus of, for he's a jolly good fellow. It's hard to believe that next year we'll see the 25th anniversary of the Expo 88 opening ceremony, but I wish you all a very successful celebration, and we'd be delighted if you'd raise a 4X on my behalf to Bob and all the other directors and staff who created Brisbane's World Expo 88. For 6 months, it was probably the happiest place on earth.
And I think it surely was.
And I would echo those sentiments, Peter, because at that time I was a young 23-year-old bloke, and I had also a 6-month pass to Expo 88, and it indeed was really the coming of age, along with the Commonwealth Games a few years earlier. It really put Brisbane on the map. It was fantastic 6 months.
And if you're like most 23-year-old males at that time, you probably don't remember half.
Probably right.
So, and what people will also notice is on the table is a miniature of continuous division, which is what I picked up over the weekend in Adelaide, which is Greg John's contribution to the 25th anniversary, and will be an item that makes its way into one of the museums, or the John Oxley Library in Brisbane, and you'll follow its progression over the next couple of months. Now, Bob, we've got other meetings planned, but I'll just give you a few minutes if you want to just give a brief snippet of the most memorable part of Expo from your perspective this afternoon.
I think that the most memorable thing to me always was the happy people, the crowd. I mean, whenever, no matter what was happening, if you were feeling low or you wanted to get recharged, all you had to do was just go down on site, and seeing people really having such a great time. That's what I think injected it, that enthusiasm then into all the staff. And that flowed right through. The staff were infected with that same enthusiasm, and everybody had a great time. And when I look at that piece there, the other thing that I think was always fascinating about Expo 88 was the fact that everybody that in their own particular area felt that that was the most important thing about Expo. And I'm sure Gary would say that was the thing that was the most important thing about Expo, the same way as anyone in a restaurant, their restaurant was the reason for Expo. And it was everybody wanting to make their part the best, and that's what made the whole thing work so well.
Yeah, I'm absolutely certain you're right that it fired on so many different levels. Like creativity that was floating around at that place is something that I hope that we can tap into with the G20 and with the Commonwealth Games on the Gold Coast, and it just should be amazing. Now, there's another part to this afternoon's event talking about creativity, and so if you just stay tuned and come back in a second, you will be quite amazed as to what we're going to be opening in a little few minutes' time. And with that, just excuse me as I get up and turn the recorder off. Thank you.